Hi everyone, very good morning to one and all, and myself V. Dinesh Babu from the Department of CSC of Chabrol Engineering College, and a warm welcome to all the listeners of today's session. And in today's session, we are going to discuss about the theory part behind CSS. So CSS means cascading style sheets. So before entering into today's class, let us revive the last few classes. So in the last few classes, we have discussed the things related to HTML. We completed both the theory part, and at the same time, we have written some coding. And by using that coding also, we generated some web pages. In the initial classes, I explained some history related to HTML, and then some basic introduction to HTML, and then some basics in HTML. And then we went to see some of the simple tags such as H1 to H6 heading tags, paragraph tags, bold tag, italic tag. And then we move to some of the complex tags, such as if you want to move the text over the screen, that means if we want to scroll some text over the screen, we use a tag called as marquee at the same time. And then we entered into some of the in-depth concepts in HTML. First, we saw how to create links in HTML. So links in HTML can be created by using anchor tag, which is defined by A, and it contains some attributes. We have seen all these things. And soon after the completion of the links topic, we saw how to insert images into web pages. So we can use IMG tag in order to insert images into web pages. And then we saw how to create list in HTML. So creation of list involves, that means there are three types of list in HTML: ordered list, unordered list, and a description list. So we have shown if we want to create an ordered list, we use OL tag. And if we want unordered list, means we use UL tag. And for description list also, we used another tag. And then after the completion of list, we saw how to create tables. So tables in HTML can be created by using table tag. We have shown how to create tables, how to color the tables, how to generate borders for the tables, and how to insert table rows. We can insert table rows by using TR tag, and then table data can be inserted by using TD tag. So these all are the things we have covered under the topics of tables. And after the tables, we have seen about how to create frames in HTML. Frames are nothing but they will divide the web page into multiple number of sessions. On each and every session, we can display one HTML document. So in case if we want to display multiple number of HTML documents same time on a same web page, then we can use the concept called as frames. So we have seen how to use frame set tag. So frame set tag will divide the entire screen into multiple number of parts, either by rows or columns. If we pass rows equal to different percentages, according to that percentages, that will divide the web page. And then we have seen how to use the frame tag, how to change the frame colors at the same time, how to insert or delete the borders of the frame, how to insert or delete the scroll bars for the frame, etc. And in the previous class, we have seen about forms in HTML. So in order to take some input from the user, we need to create some elements which will take input from the user. Those elements can be generated in HTML by using a tag called as form. So under the form, we have multiple types of different tags. We have seen the tag called as input tag. So that input tag contains a type attribute. That particular type attribute will take different values. For example, if the type attribute is given with the text value, then text field will be generated. If we give text area to the type attribute, then it will generate a text area. If you give button, means it will generate some. Sorry, if you give submit, means it will generate a submit button. And then if you give week means there will be it will generate something, some input, some icon like that, where we can give time, date, week, etc. So this is what we have covered so far in HTML. And now from today's class onwards, we are going to discuss about CSS. I think the theory part of CSS will take only, I will cover the CSS part, CSS theory part in this session only. And from the next session, we can see the programs related to CSS, right? So this is a complete theory class. I will explain each and every concept related to cascading style sheets. So, and in the next class, I will cover the programs related to the CSS, right? So, CSS, the full form of CSS is cascading style sheets. So, where we use these style sheets in the sense, if we want to apply some styles to the web pages, we can use this CSS. So, till now, we have seen some generation of web pages. In that web pages, we have generated links, we have generated tables, we have inserted images, etc. So we just applied one style called as, we just applied some color to the web page. That's it. So other than that, we didn't apply any types of styles to the web page. So if we want to look our developer web page beautifully, then we need to insert some styles into that web page. Instead of simply writing some data, instead of simply displaying some image, or instead of displaying some input things, we can just model all those things. We can model text in different styles. We can model images in different shapes. And we can do many more things by using the concept called as CSS. So here, what does this CSS do is that CSS allows you to apply styles to web pages. So in order to apply some styles to web pages, we use this CSS, right? So let us see how this CSS will work. What are the different there are three different CSS. I will show in the next slides. So what are the different CSS we are going to see, and how that CSS will help to display a web page beautifully, right? Now, and coming to the CSS, it is very easy to learn and understand, right? So it is very easy. So whoever learned the HTML till now, for the people who knows HTML well, and CSS is not very hard. It is very easy, and it is very easy to understand also, right? So, but it provides a powerful control over the presentation of an HTML document. So in order to present a HTML document in a very beautiful manner, this CSS will provide a powerful control. So we can develop a web page, and that for that particular web page, we can use one CSS, and we can change the complete style of that web page by using the CSS. So this CSS will provide a powerful control over the presentation. So it will never involves in developing input elements, or it never involves in developing inserting images. It never involves in inserting some text, etc. It only used for beautiful presentation of the content over the web page. So in order to present the content beautifully over the web page, we use this CSS, and it is very easy to learn and understand, right? Next one. So there are many advantages with the CSS in HTML. So let us look at what are those advantages. The first one, it solves a big problem. What is the big problem? So if we want to apply some style, for example, if we want to apply some color to a paragraph, or some style to a text, or something, some beautiful things over the web page, it will be a very problem. It will increase many lines of HTML code. For all these things can be solved by using the CSS. How all these things can be solved by using the CSS, I will show it in the examples, right? So it solves a big problem. And second one, CSS saves time. So how the CSS saves time? So this CSS, in CSS, we use a document, and for any web page, if we apply that particular document, that the style of the web page will be changed according to the code that was present in that document. So we can develop that document once, and we can use that document for any number of web pages, so there is no need to write style code for each and every document. So obviously it will save time. For example, I want to develop 10 web pages, and those 10 for the 10 web pages I need to apply some styles, right? So let us consider each and every web page will take 10 minutes of time. So in order to develop all the 10 web pages with some style, I need 10 to 10 100 minutes of time. Let us take an round figure of we need 1.5 hours of time. So but if you develop a CSS in 10 minutes, and if you apply that CSS for each and every document, for each and every 10 documents, then it will be completed within half an hour. So this is how CSS will save time, and I will show it later in the example. And next one, it provide more attributes. So HTML consists of some attributes which will change the style of the characters, or which will change the color of the characters, or which will be used in order to represent the data which was present on the web page somewhat beautiful over the web page. But there are many more attributes in CSS. Those attributes can be used to present the data on the web page in more styles, right? There are many more attributes when compared with HTML. And next one, it supports reusability. We all know the concept of inheritance. So write once, we can write the code once, and we can use the code anywhere in the program. So if a class contains some data, and if any class is inheriting that particular class, so the inherited class can use the data of the base class. So we all know the concept of inheritance. So in inheritance, we write the things in one class, and we use the things in many other classes by using inheritance. The same concept will work here. It supports the reusability. As I said earlier, in the second point, in the CSS saves time, as I said earlier, if you write one CSS document, that CSS document can be applied to any number of web pages, not only 10, any number of web pages. So we are using that CSS document to many more web pages. That means we are reusing the CSS document. So it is called as reusability. So this reusability in the sense inheritance, right? Next one. A CSS rule set contains a selector and a declaration block. So let us look at what is a selector and what is a declaration block. So a CSS, there is some rule set. So each and every rule set contains a selector and a declaration block. Right, let us see what is the selector and what is the declaration block, and let us see it by using the syntax. Right, so selector, right, selector, and within the blocks, there will be something called as property 1, value 1, property 2, value 2, property 3, value 3, etc. and so on. And the things inside that curly braces is called as a declaration block. And the thing which is outside of the curly braces is called as selector, right? Right, let us see. So the selector points to the HTML element you want to style. So what does the selector do is, if we want to style an HTML element, for example, in my view, whenever I am using the heading H1, I need that H1 with red color. So here the selector will be H1, right? Here the selector will be H1. So that whenever I use H1, the text should be represented in red color. That is my opinion. That is what I want on the web page. So we can put here in place of selector, we can replace it with H1. And inside that one, in place of property 1, we can use color, and in place of value 1, we can use red. So if you use H1, curly braces open, color, colon, red, curly braces close. Then whenever I use H1 in my web page, that H1 will be represented by default in red color because we have applied some CSS. So I will show them later. So let us look at what is the selector and what are the property and what is the value here. So the selector points to the HTML element you want to style. So what is the HTML element you want to style? You have to represent that HTML element as a selector. For example, if you want to style a H1 heading, then you have to put H1 in place of selector. If you want to style a paragraph, entire paragraph you want to style, then you can put P in place of selector. And if you want to style some other thing, you can put that HTML element name in place of selector. I think you all understood. Next one. Declaration block contains one or more declarations separated by a semicolon. So it is not mandate only to have a 1 or a 2 or a 3 or a 4. We can have any number of things inside the declaration block. So, but each and everything should be separated by a semicolon. So the declaration block contains one or more declarations. Here, keep the one thing in your mind. Declaration means the combination of property and value is called declaration. The combination of property and value is called declaration. So property 1, value 1, it is one declaration. Property 2, value 2, it is the second declaration. Property 3, value 3, it is the third declaration, and so on. Property n, value n is the nth declaration. So this declaration block may contain one or more number of declarations, but each and every declaration should be separated with a semicolon. So then we have property 1 colon value 1 semicolon, property 2 colon value 2 semicolon. Each and every semicolon says that it is a separate declaration. At the end also we need to use a semicolon. That means that is the end of a declaration. So semicolon will says it is an end to the declaration, right? So the declaration block may contain one or more number of declarations. Each and every declaration is separated by a semicolon. Next one. Each declaration includes a CSS property name and a value separated by a colon. That's what I said earlier. Declaration means it is a combination of property and value. Combination of property and value. Even though even each and every property and value should be separated by a colon, right? So declaration is separated by a semicolon. Declaration means combination of property and value. So property and value should be separated with a colon, right? If it is a colon, that means we are separating a property and value. If it is a semicolon, that means we are separating a declaration, right? And keep those things in mind. And then a CSS declaration always ends with a semicolon, and declaration blocks are surrounded by a curly braces. So CSS declarations end with a semicolon. That's what we have studied in the second point of this slide. Sorry, third point of this slide. And then after the selector, we have it should be surrounded with the curly braces. So in place of selector, we have to write any HTML element, H1, H2, or a paragraph, or a bold, or an italic, etc. In place of selector, we can replace it with any HTML element. In place of property 1 and value 1, we can use any property. We can change the color, we can change the style, we can change the font, or else we can apply anything. We have to represent the property name and we have to provide the value. If we want the font size should be 30 for all the things inside the paragraph, then we have to represent here P, property 1 font size, and then value 30. So that whenever we use P inside the web page, the things inside the P will have the font of 30. And we want the paragraph color should be in green, then we have to give color colon green. So whenever a paragraph is used in the web page, the font will be 30 and color will be green, right? So all the things, that is font 30, color green, right? These all things should be surrounded with a curly braces, right? So if you observe the syntax, you can clearly remember all these things. Selector means HTML element. we have to start the curly braces, and inside the curly braces we have to represent different properties along with the values. So property 1, as I said earlier, property and value should be separated by a colon. Property 1 colon value 1, and the property and value, the combination of property and value is called declaration. So whenever the declaration is completed, we have to use semicolon, and then property 2, and then we are going to write the value 2. That's why we have used this colon, property 2 colon value 2. The declaration has been completed, then use the semicolon to separate the next declaration, and so on. Write the nth declaration and end it with a semicolon, and then we have started with the curly braces, so we have to end it with the curly braces, right? So this is the syntax what we are going to use in CSS, right? Next one, let us see one example. As I said earlier, so whenever I want to use a H1, that H1 should be in red color. So here I am replacing H1 in place of selector, right? You can, if you observe the syntax, there is selector property 1 colon value 1 semicolon, property 2 colon value 2 semicolon, and so on semicolon, and that those all things are grouped by a curly braces. So similarly, here in the example, H1 curly braces open, color colon red semicolon closed curly braces. That means H1 is the selector, right? Color is the property 1. Colon will separate property and value. So the RHS of the colon is red is the value for that particular property. So the declaration is completed. So there is some combination of property and value. Then we have to close it with this semicolon and then close the curly braces. So let us look at each and everything. H1, it is a selector, color, it is a property name, it is a property value, right? Right, next one. So let us have a look at what are the different types of style sheets we have. As I said earlier, there are 3 types of style sheets, right? So CSS, cascading style sheets. These CSS are of 3 types. So there are 3 cascading style sheets. Let us look at what are the names of those 3 cascading style sheets. First one, so there are 3 types of style sheets. First one, inline style sheets. The name of the first style sheet is called as inline style sheet. Second one, internal style sheet, or the other name for this internal style sheet is embedded style sheet, right? Next one, third one, external style sheets. So there are 3 types of style sheets. These 3 types names are inline, internal or embedded, external style sheets, right? So let us have a look at each and every style sheet in detail. First one, inline style sheet. So inline CSS is used to apply CSS on a single line or element. So as the name says that inline. So inline in the sense when we are writing, when we are developing web page, we write some code in HTML. So when I'm writing the code in HTML, so if we want to apply some style to a tag or to an element, then we have to, then we can represent the CSS along with the line of that web page, along with the line of that HTML code. So that means we are going to apply some inline style sheet. So that particular style will be applied to that element of the web page, right? So next one, internal or embedded. So internal CSS is used to apply CSS on a single document or a single page. So keep one thing in mind. If you want to apply the style for a single line of web page, then you have to use inline style sheet. If you want to apply a CSS for an entire web page, right? Entire web page, then we have to use internal CSS, right? So internal CSS is used to apply CSS on a single document or a page. So it is used to apply CSS on a single document or a page. It can affect all the elements of the page, right? So if you use internal style sheet embedded style sheet. So the effect will be on all the elements of that particular page. So it is written inside the style tag within the head section of HTML. So it is very important where we have to write this internal style sheet. So that internal style sheet will be represented inside the head tag, right? And inside the head tag, we are going to use a tag called as style tag. And inside the style tag, we are going to write the CSS. So inline in the sense, so the CSS code will be written along with the line of HTML. Internal means we are going to write the CSS code in the head section by using style tag, right? So don't worry, I will show an example, one example on inline style sheet, and I will show another example on internal or embedded style sheet, and one more example on external style sheet, right? So next one. So let us look at the third type of style sheet. So the name of the third type of style sheet is external style sheet. As a name says, as we saw the name, there is some we got something in your mind. External means there is some outside style sheet, right? Inline means on the same line. Internal means the style sheet was included within the HTML, and external style sheet means we write the style sheet separately and we link that particular style sheet to our HTML document, right? External CSS is used to apply CSS on multiple pages or all pages. So inline is used to apply style to a particular line. Internal is used to apply style to an entire web page, right? External is used to apply the style to multiple number of pages, right? So if you use inline means, so the effect of style will be in only on one line. If you use internal means, the effect of style will be on a single web page or a single document, HTML document. But if you use an external style sheet, then we can apply the style to multiple number of web pages, right? So here, so how to write an external style sheet? So we write all the CSS code. That is, there is some code. The code is called cascading style sheet code in a CSS file, and its extension should be .css, right? As all we know that when we are writing some programs, so in the previous sessions also we have written many programs. All the programs are saved with the .html extension, because we are dealing with the HTML programs. We save the programs with HTML extension. We all are familiar with C, C++, and Java. We save the C code by using .c, C++ code by using .cpp, and Java code by using .java. So here also, if you write any external CSS, that is cascading style sheet, we have to write the code in a notepad, right? We have to write the code in a notepad, and we have to save that notepad with any name. We can save it with any name, but after that name, we have to include .css, which means the particular thing is a cascading style sheet, right? So we have to write the entire CSS code in a document, and then we have to save that particular document with .css extension, right? Next one. So it uses the link tag on every pages, on every page, and the link tag should be put inside the head session. So we have done one thing in internal style sheet. If you want to apply some style to the entire web page, we used a style tag inside head tag, and within the style tag we will write some CSS code. But here that CSS code was written separately in a separate document, and we have to link that particular document to our web page. So if you want to link the document to our web page, we have to use the link tag, and that link tag should be used in the head section, not in the body section. That link tag should be used in the head section, and for that link tag, we have to provide the path of the external CSS. So if you provide the correct path of the external CSS, so the style which was written in that external CSS will be applied to the entire web page, right? So I think it may you may have some confusion with this internal or inline or external. But once if you write one program, or once if you see one program, one example program, then all of your doubts will be clarified. Don't worry with that. I will show each and every sheet that is inline, internal and external, and I will show how they will work. So don't worry with that. Just keep the important points in your mind, right? So while we are using external style sheet means we will write the CSS code in a document, and we save the CSS code with .css extension, and we have to bring that .css file into our HTML code. So in order to bring that CSS file into our HTML code, we are going to use a tag called as link tag. So, and that particular link tag will be used inside the head session. And for that particular link tag, we are going to provide the complete path. Path means where our CSS file is located in our computer system. So the complete address of the CSS file to this link tag, so that that link tag will link the CSS to the web page. So the web page will be displayed in such a way that according to the styles which was represented in the CSS, right? So I will show everything in the example. Don't worry, I will show everything in the example in the next session, right? Just keep all the important points in your mind. Next, right, next one, CSS selector, right? How selector, these are used to select the content you want to style. So there will be a lot of content on a web page. Not web page are limited with some of the content. Lot of content will be there on the web page. So we have to select some content over the web page, and we have to apply some style. So in some situations, there is no need to apply style for all the content over the web page. We can apply the style for only some of the content over the web page. So the content selection is done by CSS selector, right? Selectors are the part of CSS rule set, right? Next one, there are 5 types of selectors. So CSS selectors are divided into 5 types. So the 5 types of selectors are element selector, ID selector, class selector, universal selector, group selector. These are the 5 types of selectors we have for CSS. So selectors are used to select the content you want to style. So they are used to select the content over the web page you want to style, right? So these are the 5 types of selectors: elementary, ID, class, universal, and group selectors. These are the 5 types of selectors we have for CSS. Right, element selector. So the element selector selects the HTML element by name. So each and every HTML element have some name. For example, H1 is having some heading 1 having H1 name, heading 2 is having H2 name, paragraph is having P name. So we can select, right? We can select the element by its name. So the selection of elements by its name is called as element selector, right? Second one, ID selector. So the ID selector selects the ID attribute of an HTML element to select a specific element. That means, so we all know that each and every HTML element have some attributes, right? So those are not those attributes are not same for the CSS attributes. So these ID selectors in CSS allows you to target elements, that means tags, by their ID values. So ID selectors are unique. So you can apply only to the content of one element, right? To reference an ID, you precede the ID name with a hash mark. So that means it is written with a hash character followed by the ID of the element, right? Next one, third one, class selector. So the class selector selects the HTML element with a specific class attribute, right? So it is used with a period character. That means we have a full stop symbol followed by the class name, right? To select elements with a specific class, sorry, you can also specify that only specific HTML element should be affected by a class. So there we can have class selector. So that class selector is represented with a dot symbol and followed by some class name. And by using the class selector, we can apply the things to a specific elements only, not only all the elements in the web page. We can apply the things to a specific selected elements. Next one, universal selector. Universal selector is used to it will select all the elements in the web pages. It is called as a wildcard character, right? It will select all the elements on the web page, right? There is it will not leave any even one element also. It will, if there are 100 elements over the web page, those 100 elements, all the 100 elements will be selected by using this universal selector. And group selector, this grouping selector is used to select all the elements within the same style definitions, right? If there are some n number of elements over the web page, in all those n number of elements, if 10 elements are of same style, then this group selector is used to select those 10 elements. So don't worry, I will explain, sorry, I will show what is a element selector, what is ID selector, class selector, universal selector, and group selector by using an example in the next session, right? Next one. So grouping selector is used to minimize the code. Commas are used to separate each selector in grouping. And then there is one model called as box model, right? There is one model called as box model. In this box model, it is called as a CSS box model, right? So how we are going to use this CSS box model in the sense, so in web development, right? In web development, the CSS box model refers to how HTML elements are modeled in browser engines and how dimensions of those HTMLs are derived from CSS properties. It is a fundamental concept for the composition of HTML web pages. The guidelines of the box model are described by the web standards. So there is one thing called as W3C, that means World Wide Web Consortium. So the guidelines of the box model are described by that World Wide Web Consortium. Specifically, the CSS working group. So here, what this box model will tell us is, there are 4 things in this one. So the thing which was represented inside with a blue color, that is CHEC is called as content, right? It is called as content. And the thing outside that content is called as padding. And outside the padding, we have border. And outside the border, we have margin. So let us look at what these 4 things will do. So the content, so let us start with the content. So it is also called as inner edge. So the thing which is the border of the content is called as content edge or inner edge. So the content edge surrounds the rectangle by a given width and height of the box, right? Which often depends on the elements rendered content. So the 4 content edges defines the box content box. So here the content edge contains the things which we want to represent over the web page. So that particular content web page is surrounded by a padding edge. So the padding edge surrounds the box padding. If the padding has 0 width, so the padding edge is same as the content edge. If we don't have the padding edge means, then the padding edge and the content edge will be same. So the 4 padding edges defines the box padding box. So there are 4 edges for each and every box. Those 4 edges will define the padding box. And then outside the padding box, we have border edge. So the border edge surrounds the box border, right? If border edge has 0 width, then the border edge is same as padding edge. So the 4 border edges defines the box border box. And outside the border box, we have margin edge. And this margin edge surrounds the box margin. And if the same margin edge is 0, if the margin has 0 width, then the margin edge is same as the border edge. And the 4 corners of the margin edge defines the box, margin box. So each edge may be broken down into a top, right, bottom, and left edges. So the dimensions of the content area of the box, the content width and the content height depends on several factors. Whether the element generating the box has a width or height property, set whether the box contains text or other boxes. Whether the box is a table, etc. Box width and height are discussed in later, right? So remember all these four names. We have a content box, padding box, and border box and margin box. So for each and every box, we have some width and height. So the content box defines the actual thing what we want to display on the web page. Right, moving to the next one, conflict resolution. Very, very important. So what this conflict resolution will say is, when we have two different style sheets applying different styles on a same HTML element. For example, there is one HTML element called as H1. For that H1, I have written one inline style sheet, I have written one internal style sheet, and I have written one external style sheet. So in inline, I want H1 to be red color. In internal, I want H1 to be green color. And in external, I want H1 to be yellow color. So if I write H1 in the body of the HTML code, how that H1 will be displayed on the web page, whether it will be displayed in red color or green color or yellow color. That is, whether it will be displayed in red color according to inline, or in green color according to internal, or in yellow color according to external. There the conflict will raise for the browser. The browser don't understand whether to use an internal, inline, or external style sheet. That means the browser don't understand whether to follow an internal style sheet or an external style sheet or an inline style sheet. So at that point of time, some conflict will be raised to the browser. So how to solve those type of conflicts is called as conflict resolution. So in the concept of conflict resolution, so let us see the first point. In sometimes, to apply one or more declarations to elements, then it causes conflicts. So if a same element is having more than one style, then it causes conflict. So the browser faces the problem which type of dimension is applied to the element. So the browser don't understand whether to apply which style, because two styles are represented for the same element. So at that particular point of time, what CSS will do is CSS conflict resolution done by the following two ways. There are two ways. The first one, the direct control of the author or the style sheet, who in turn can change his or her style rules to resolve the conflict. If I am the person who have written those style sheet, so I can change the values in the style sheet so that we can resolve the conflict, right? It is a direct control of the author. So if I am the writer of the program, then I can change the CSS so that so we can avoid the conflict for the web page. Second one is the browser resolves the conflict. First one, it is direct control of the author. So the author can change the value so that we can resolve the conflict. And second one, the browser will resolve the conflict using the rules of cascading and specificity. So there are some rules for cascading style sheets, and there is one concept called as specificity. So by using these two things, the browser will resolve the conflict that are caused by the CSS. So let us look at what are the rules of cascading and what is the specificity in order to resolve the conflict. First one, specificity rules equal specificity. So equal specificity in the sense the latest rule counts. So if the same rule is written twice into the external style sheet, then the lower rule in the style sheet is closer to the element to be styled, and therefore it will be applied. For example, in the external style sheet, I have written H1 color red, and I represent the same H1 in the bottom H1 color green. That means the latest rule is green. So whenever I represent a H1 over the web page, it will be represented in green color because the green is the latest rule that was applied on H1. So equal specificity means it will follow the latest rule that was applied over the HTML element. And next one, ID selectors, they have the higher specificity than attribute selectors, right? Next one, contextual selectors are more specific than a single element selector. So the embedded style sheet is closer to the element to be styled. So contextual selectors are more specific than a single element selector, right? So in this, the embedded style sheet means internal style sheet is closer to the element to be styled. So in such cases, the internal style sheet will be followed. And next one, class selector. It beats any number of element selectors, right? It beats any number of element selectors. And I think many of the people have some confusion regarding today's class. I think in my point of view, I think many of the people is having some confusion because this is the very first class on CSS. And I think I will resolve all your confusions in the next coming session. In the next coming session, I will completely work with the programs on CSS, how the CSS will work, and the different types of CSS, that is inline, internal, and external. And at the same time, I will write some programs on selectors also. There we saw some selectors: element selector, ID selector, class selector, group selector. So I will show how all these selectors will work. So by showing all these examples, I think your confusion may get resolved. And soon after your confusion gets resolved, please practice each and everything by your own so that you will get some perfectness on CSS. And right, so don't worry with this today's class. I will show each and everything in the next session, right? And I thank each and everyone for being patient and listening my lecture throughout this hour. And I thank you very much, and let us I will see you in the next session. Thank you.